stories, where we tell behind-the-scenes stories of the fire department and people that work in the fire department. And my name is Bob, and way over there is Doug. And we've got a special guest again today. Brian is coming to tell us a few more stories. And Brian, you got a doozy to tell us this morning, don't you?
I think I do, yeah. I got in a fight one time at the fire station.
I heard that with a reverend?
He was a reverend. In fact, he had a lot of accolades. Played professional football.
Yeah, that's right too. He played for the Winnipeg Jets, didn't he? Yeah.
Started the food bank in London.
Yeah.
And he was a member of Parliament.
And you know what else he did when he was in high school? He played in the band with Joni Mitchell.
No way.
Yeah, they were both in high school together.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah.
I know at one point he was authoring one book after another and writing policy for the Liberal Party and all kinds of stuff. He was the representative to the United Nations for food supplies or something like that. If you had 800,000 refugees, he'd come and help you get food organized.
I remember one time we were at number 6 company, and they got the private phones, and then they're sort of like, I wouldn't even call it inside of a room. It's like a locker, like 2x2 or 3x3, right, that you're in the room. The phone rings, and someone goes to get it, and they said, is Glenn Pearson there? I says, yeah. And Glenn goes on, he's on the phone for about 25, 30 minutes, and says, who was that? Says, well, that was the Prime Minister, John Critchett. Calling Glenn at the fire station.
You'd come back after your time off and you'd be like, what'd you do? I went fishing. What'd you do? I built a cabin, a log cabin. Or I went to meet with Boutros Ghali at the United Nations. I went fishing. But
they asked him to go to Washington it was something on starving children in the world, right, now to feed these children. And so the Canadian government asked him to be the representative. So they flew him down there, and they gave him the ticket, and it was first class, and they put him up in this this hotel that was really first class, and he went in and changed his first class ticket to economy, right, because he didn't think he should be doing that on the taxpayers' dollars. And instead of spending the time in the hotel he was booked into, he went into like a boarding house, rooming house type of situation. So I guess he's at one of these meetings, and he was a real likable guy and knowledgeable. And one of the guys said, hey, can I come and see you? Pick you up, we'll go for supper. He says, well, sure. He says, where are you? He says, I'm at this place. And the guy pulls up and he says, you're not staying here, are you? He said, you might get stabbed at night. And Glenn says, well, he said, I don't feel like I should be paying, only $400 or $500 a night when I can get one for $65. And afterwards, I think after that trip, he had like almost $5,000. I won't put a number on it, but he had a whole pile of money, and he wanted to take it back and give it back to the government. And the government had no way of accepting that money back.
That doesn't surprise me.
He couldn't give it back. But anyways, I'm sorry for stepping in.
No, that's all right.
Yeah,
he was quite a guy. I was thrilled to work with the guy. Yeah. He had so many amazing things that he had done, including he taught me how to operate the old snorkel, which was a joystick-operated aerial platform. Mm-hmm. And it had 3 axes, where one of them you had to use your body to move it, right? And you've got this joystick.
That was moving the upper. The lower one up.
Yeah, it's doing this, right?
Yeah.
And he would spend hours with me going up the corner of 6s and then across the roof line and down the corner and repeat back and forth, trying to get a feel for how to operate this thing.
Yeah, because to go up straight up a wall like that, you had to do 3 things at once.
Yes.
Or 2 things at once. Yeah.
At least, yeah.
Because if you just put it up, if you just pulled the upper boom up, it would come like that. But if Brian was a wall, it would go away from it. And if you just raise the lower boom, you go like that. So you had to raise them both at the same time so that you would keep your bucket close.
Yeah, it was tricky.
Yeah.
So we got close. I worked over there with those guys for a few months. It was just before coming downtown to work with you guys. And one day, Glenn was going on about how he could take me. And I had quite a bit of weight on the guy, but he did play professional football, so maybe he could. So I said, let's go. And the guys thought this was awesome. So they're clearing the kitchen tables. This is up in the second floor at Sixes, right? Everything's going off to the side.
You can have a wrestler with a reverend.
And Glenn said, here's the deal. If you can pin me in under a minute, I'll buy you an ice cream cone.
Yeah,
And so we're standing there, and he says, when the second hand gets up to 12, we're going. I'm like, this is amazing, right? I used to wrestle. I'm no slouch. So the clock strikes 12, and he runs away. He runs down the hallway, and he's making faces at me. He's like, yeah, you got 35 seconds. And I said, come back here and fight me like a man. Stop the clock. Stop the clock. And so I finally goaded him into coming back. All right. I appealed to his
Fairness.
sense of fairness, right? I mean, Maclean's magazine called him the last honorable man in Ottawa, and I believe that might have been true.
Yeah, I do too.
So as soon as he was within reach, I grabbed him and picked him right up off the ground, flung him around with both hands, and accidentally banged him off one of the tables that they had pulled off to the side. It was obviously their fault. They didn't pull the table far enough away.
That wasn't your fault, couldn't be.
And then I picked him up behind the knees. 1, 2, flying body slam, boom! Under a minute. He never did buy me my ice cream cone. Never did. Forget about that honorable man in Ottawa.
It was because he had to come back from the hospital to do it.
He limped around for a week. I had hurt his knee when I banged him into the table, and who knows what else. But he was not happy with me after that.
He wrote, like he was like a reverend, and he was big in a lot of the Christian organizations as well. When he started the food bank, and he developed a base to do this, and he would write books, and they were spiritually oriented, and he would write it. The guys would be watching the hockey game or something like that out in the front, and he would be back in the dorm writing his book. So they had an alarm, and he had to go out. He was writing his book, right? And some of the guys didn't go out, so he went out, and the guys went to the back of the dorm, and they saw his thing open, the book open, and they opened it up, and they were writing it, and it was about a guy that was lost on the ocean, and finally, after so long, he manages to row, and he says, and he pulls himself up on shore, and in a state of exhaustion, he falls down, and then the alarm came in, right? And so the guy says, "Twinkle this Twinkie," or something like that, right? and when he came back, he just carried on, right? And he didn't realize it. So when he gave it to one of his organizations for proofread, right? The guy that was proofreading says, he says, "I got this." He says, "But I don't understand this. What's Twinkle your Twinkie?" And he looked at it. Oh my gosh! The guys weren't very nice when it comes to stuff like that. So you couldn't trust him.
No. He loaned me one of his books to read. It was more politically oriented, and I was doing a renovation at my condo at the time, right? So I would take a break from doing construction, and I'd read a couple of pages. And I'm not a real reader. I'm sure Glenn could pour through a book in a day.
Yeah.
No problem, right? So I had his book for a couple of weeks, and he said, "Can I have it back?" That was my only personal copy. I said, "Well, I'm not done." And he wasn't happy with the fact that I hadn't finished it, let alone I got some fingerprints on it because I was doing construction. He was really mad about that. Well, one morning, this is a good segue into another story that you guys were both at. We came out to the kitchen, and there was a plume of smoke. The guys had the radio out. There was a big building downtown on fire, the Selby printing building. It was in the process of being converted to a restaurant or something like that. And caught fire. And whoever arrived to put in a second alarm, which included truck 6, which I had spent weeks learning how to go up the one side and down the other.
So I can use this.
I'm like, I was on the pump that day, and Glenn was the bucket man, and I'm like, "Can I go?" And he had to go to church. It was his turn to speak at his church that morning. So he's like, "Okay, sure." So I jump on the truck, and away we go. Brent Shea was driving, and I think Ted Nezik was the captain. And we just got up above the building when the roof came in. It was quite the sight. And I looked over, and you two were, or at least you were at the turntable truck one, and you were up in the bucket. I remember you going up and down the ladder.
Yeah.
And there was no ladder on the snorkel, so once you're up there, you're stuck up there.
Stuck up there, yeah.
But the roof, slowly came in from the center out to the edges, and a big fireball came up. It was amazing. That was a big fire.
Yeah, it was, and it's funny. All those big fires were up there, pouring thousands of gallons of water.
Thousands.
Yeah. It's nice to remember. I forgot about that one actually.
Well, one thing that they didn't teach me was when you're setting the truck up, of course, you have to set the outriggers out so it doesn't tip over. And there was about 1.5 feet of snow on the ground. It was a blizzard that night. And when we set up the truck, I didn't clear the ground before putting the outriggers out. I'm backing Brent up, and one of the outriggers, or downriggers, covered the sewer grate.
Oh my!
Which was not safe, for one thing.
No.
But it also caused the parking lot to fill up with water.
I remember that.
Nowhere to go. And I got down finally when my turn was over and it was time to go home. Somebody else was taking over. I stepped out onto the parking lot and the water came right in my boots. That's how deep it was in the parking lot. Because, it sloped down towards this drain.
The drain.
Nobody could figure out why it wasn't draining away. What was under the outrigger.
You had it covered.
Check before you put those things down. Give them a little.
But before we sign off, I remember that snorkel that you're talking about. It had square outriggers. So the outriggers were square metal that came out of a square tube that received them, right? So it would come out like that, and there'd be a square tube there. But if you were using it too much on one side, or you put it the way, sometimes the outriggers would get stuck in the tubes, a square. It would bind, and when you went to lift them back up, they wouldn't pull up back, and they wouldn't seat. They just stay there because they were bound. So the first time I saw that happen, we were using beside just doing some training on it, and one of the guys, George Edmonds, this guy, I loved him, right? But he always,
the mechanic.
Yeah, he was a mechanic, and he'd look at, now, let me see here. He says, Bob, he says, go up in there. Go up and take that up. And I said, safe? He says, oh yeah. He says, it's safe. So I took it up, and it was the right ones that were stuck. He says, okay, I want you to put the knuckle on that side. So put the knuckle over on that side. I said, okay, lower it. So now I'm lowering the thing so all the weight of the whole booms were going on the one side. And then he hit the outrigger and just got past the catch point, right? And then just now go around the other side. Here I am up, 50 feet, right?
That's how we're gonna do it.
Yeah, it's okay, George. But yeah, he was a good guy. But anyways, thank you so much for tuning in today. Doug didn't have a chance to talk, but that was by design.
Tune in next week.
Who tune in next week? He might have a story back then. But if you like the story as much as we like telling it, please press the like button. And if you'd like us to come to your mailbox every Friday when we post, just press follow and it'll come right to your mailbox. You won't have to go looking for us. So until then, stay safe. Bye-bye.